coast to coast, it's your hosts, the Lombardi Leap and Mersey FB. This is Beyond the Frozen Tundra.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Blaine, here with Matt. We actually have a special guest here today who is at training camp, Justin with Badger Pack Sports. Justin, thanks for coming on today. I appreciate it.
I am looking forward to talking with you boys about what we've seen transpire at training camp, and I'm ready for football. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, me too. I've been craving it recently. It's really cool to get experience from someone who's been there and to get their input, because I will say, reading through Twitter and keeping up with everything and all the beat reporters, this conversation is going to be really informative to me and crucial, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I'm in Florida, Matt's obviously in Canada. I used to live in Green Bay, but it's nice to have somebody who's been there in person. But before we kind of get into that, I kind of want to talk about some just kind of casual headlines that have been kind of going around. A lot of our tight ends have unfortunately been injured. It's an absolute bummer. I was a big RJ Maryland guy. I thought he had a potential to make the roster before they signed Luke Lachey. And when they signed Lachey, once episode, I got to mess up a name, Luke Lachey. And I thought when they signed Luke Lachey, I thought, oh, okay, instead of RJ Maryland, it's going to be him instead. Well, he was seen in a walking boot today, and we're recording this on Tuesday the 4th, and he was released, waived, injured, along with RJ Maryland.
I'd love to know what Justin thought of our tight end room and where he thinks it's going through the practice.
Well, on Monday, Lachey was suited up and practicing, so the fact that he's banged up is news to me. It's crazy how fast things can change and how injuries pop up. I will say the tight end room, what caught my eye is Tucker Kraft. What I mean is he's been practicing on the side, during team drills. However, no wrap, no brace, nothing on that knee. And he's
really.
And I was blown away seeing just how explosive he looked doing some of the work on the side and catching balls, from the quarterbacks, but still doing work on the side. Nothing with the team, but I was just blown away just seeing how a guy coming off a major knee injury has no signs of having that. So I think that's the big takeaway from the tight end room.
It's really remarkable
at this point. Yeah,
he's a little bit.
He tore that,
right? It was Carolina.
Yes, Carolina. That would have been November 2nd, and if he's off the pup in August, you're looking at what? November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July.
Yes.
We'll say July. That's 9 months.
Perfect.
That's not bad.
Timeline.
That's really not bad. Especially now with everything they got. I'm just surprised that he's not wearing anything like you said there, Justin. Like that to me is probably the biggest.
And he was out
sigh of relief.
And he was out riding bikes with the kids before practice. Like he is, the staff is not holding him back from participating in some of the traditions, because you see typically the star players and guys they want to protect not do the bikes and things of that. But he was out there and chatting it up with the kids. So I think he's locked in. I think he's ready for a big 2026 season.
No.
And speaking of a big 2026 season and injuries, obviously, Zach Tom changed his name, and he is now Zach Bako Biawele to honor his grandparents, which is super cool to see. Have you had a chance to kind of look at him? How involved was he?
The offensive line, unfortunately, was on the farther side of the field where I was at, but I would say from what the limited snaps that I did see of him, he looked solid. I think the edges from the offensive line, the two tackles, look to be the stalwarts of the line. My main concern, honestly, is with the interior, which I know we'll probably talk about in a little bit. But I'd say between Jordan Morgan and Zach Bako Bowele, I hope I did not butcher that.
Let's all just say ZBB.
Yeah, ZBB. I do like that. I think it's a little
actually,
early.
D-Bach did give him permission to be called Z-Bach.
Ooh, I like that.
That works too.
Hopefully, I'll D-Bach's blessing. Let's go with that. I think it's a little early in camp to see just kind of how things are going to transpire with his injury coming back from it. Monday when I was at camp, that was the first padded practice. Though I would say the intensity level wasn't as probably high as I expect maybe next week or the following, as they're trying to ramp these guys up and get some calluses on their body before they start going real hard. So I'd say it's something to keep an eye out on. I would say the jury's still out on Zach, a ZBB on his recovery back from the injury from last year.
Yeah, and I mean, if you listen to our previous episodes, like one of the big things that I've kind of hammered, and so has Matt here, was just, I mean, the offensive line is really gonna determine how far this team can go, and I mean, hearing just how successful it sounds like Jordan Morgan has been. I know he had a really good practice today, especially, and it sounds like he is really solidifying himself as that left tackle here moving forward.
Yeah, the offensive line is something that solidifies not only the floor of the team, but also the ceiling of the offense. So having a good one really raises that ceiling. As long as Jordan Morgan settles in and takes the steps we know and think he can take, that takes my concern away from the tackles and into the interior, like Justin was saying, more towards Belton and Banks.
Yeah, and I think I think health is going to be key with this group. Like I think with any group, but particularly last year, we really felt the effects of guys going down to injury, and so we're hoping ZBB stays healthy, but also Aaron Banks was out in practice or trying to manage some of his minutes during training camp, and I saw him in sweats on Monday. He looks good. He was riding bikes with the kids, and he was chatting it up. He actually signed my son's helmet, and I had a couple words with him, and he seems to be in good spirits. But yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. But he's one of those key guys too that we signed him that big contract last offseason. I think there was a little bit of a disappointing season last year with some consistency issues, and even being banged up a bit. So I'm hoping that just another year in the system, and some confidence within how the offense operates. I think Aaron Banks is a name to watch and a guy to look out for to help solidify some of the other interior issues, especially with the center and the other guard position, how we're going to handle that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that other.
I kind of like to stay on the side of the trenches here, but flip the side of the ball and talk about a big surprise through camp so far from me, which is Anthony Campbell. What's it like seeing him knock these passes down in person?
Yeah, he's a name. I had to look and dig in. So at training camp, they give you a little newspaper to track all the names because there's lots of them. And he was a guy that there's a lot of chatter amongst the crowd about. I think he's a name to continue to watch. I think for him, it's going to be interesting to see how much playing time he gets in next Thursday's preseason opener at Pittsburgh. I think the first step is really showing out during practice, but what can he do in the games against players he's never played against, and kind of being in that game mode? Because I think there's probably countless stories of practice stalwarts that kind of don't make the name for themselves in the game. So I think that's kind of his next step, is seeing what he can deliver in the game setting. But he's a guy that could be a sneaky, late add in the roster that surprises you when we cut to 53.
And it's interesting too, when he was UDFA, not this year, but the year before, out of a big name school like Miami, you always kind of wonder what those players have in store for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely too is with him batting down those passes. One of the things I don't think we've seen enough of, where I think he could definitely, if he wants to make this roster, he can make a name for himself. I mean, he's 6'6", 300 pounds. That's a big dude. That's a big dude on the defensive line. And I wonder if our new special teams coordinator is kind of like, I wouldn't mind batting down not only just some passes here, but what about getting some blocked kicks? That would be
really nice to have some
see.
good special teams for once.
Well, and I think you guys are hitting an interesting thing in the batted passes. I mean, we talk about pass rush and interior, and we look at the sack numbers and quarterback hurries, but a batted pass, like that serves you just as well. Yes, you don't lose the yardage like a sack, but it does have the same effect of
losing it down.
It
is a negative play for an offense, for sure. And
right, I would need to dig in to see what the numbers have been, but I feel like just from the eye test, like we haven't really had anybody that can really knock the ball down the line, I feel like, in the last few years. So that could be a unique skill set that separates him from others.
Done it a couple times of late.
Yeah, he's done a couple.
It was him or
definitely
Brooks who did it in the last game that I remember. So
I mean, it's been predominantly, I'd say it's been Wyatt. That kind of does sound like who was him. I don't remember Brooks. I know Brooks had Carl Brooks had a down year.
Mm-hmm.
Who I know we're talking about the defensive line here specifically. And with pads being on, I know that the past couple of weeks, we've heard a lot of good things about LVN. I mean, they say he looks like a massive human being, which I mean, a guy called Hercules, I don't know how much bigger you could get, but I guess I guess he's gotten even bigger. How have you felt the pass rush has been? Like, did you get to? I know the offensive line was down on the other end of the field. Did you get to see any of the defensive line at all?
Yeah, I think the pass rush, it's tough because I think before practice, Matt LaFleur kind of told the media that he hasn't liked how close they've gotten to the quarterbacks right before that practice. So you have to think, watching the pass rush, they're probably a little skittish to get, too aggressive coming off the line. I would say the interior push seems very solid. When I was watching some of the plays,
Really?
Jordan Love seemed very uncomfortable with pressure coming towards his lap.
That's a good
Again,
thing.
they were a little too far down the field from me to get names of the guys, making, applying the pressures. But that, it's twofold, right? Do you raise an eyebrow on the guard and center play, or do you give a thumbs up to those interior guys on the defensive line? I think it's something we need to continue to monitor and watch. But I saw a few plays consistently where Jordan Love looked a little uncomfortable on pressure coming onto his lap, which is, hopefully a good thing for our interior defensive line in what's to come.
I definitely see both sides of that coin, because when you think of the guys in the defense, Wyatt hasn't done team period yet, and Hargrave's been on pup.
No.
And those are supposed to be the two premier guys from an interior pass rush standpoint. And so, we can be happy with the development on guys like Brinson, McClellan, Stackhouse, but also you may want to be a little worried about Ryan, Banks. Kennard hasn't played guard yet, right?
Burton.
Yeah.
No,
So,
he hasn't.
And remember,
There's
too, Banks.
Yeager Burton,
who's been battling injury.
Yeah,
Monk,
Burton practiced on
interior as
Monday.
well.
Yeah, Burton practiced on Monday. He was back in pads. Remember, Banks was out, so that's also another key starter out of the line. So it's, that's the thing. You have to take some of the things you see at camp with a grain of salt, just given the bodies that they're, fluctuating in and out and just getting reps. And one thing I noticed, just as an overall theme of the practice, the tempo was very quick. They want to pump plays out. The energy levels were high. And that translates to, I think you're just rotating lots of bodies and just trying to get work in. So again, I'd be curious to see Thursday night in Pittsburgh next week of what the offensive line looks like, and also what the interior defensive line, what kind of pressure they're applying on Pittsburgh's quarterbacks and on their offensive line. So I think the jury's still out for sure on some conclusions that we can draw thus far.
Exactly. That's the key, is making sure, because we don't really know what Monk is as a guard.
I mean, you kind of do, unfortunately. He's not. And I believe Donovan Jennings was in there for a little bit. I've been kind of adamant that Donovan Jennings is peaked. I'm a little surprised I haven't heard Travis Glover back at guard yet, but it seems like he's just been back at tackle. Man, it's tough. Like that interior offensive line, like I'm very big on getting Anthony Belton at guard, but he's played a lot of tackle with Zach Tom still, recovering and such. And it's tough. That offensive line seems to be shuffling there. I don't think Yeager Burton is necessarily a pure guard on this level. And I know a lot of people are like, we want him to start over Aaron Banks. I'm not of that caliber. I want him to start over Sean Ryan. That's ultimately what I want. I mean, because if you're telling me that they're getting pressure up the middle, my first inclination isn't to look at guys like Donovan Jennings, who I don't think is going to be on the roster, or Jacob Monk, who I think is a pure center only and isn't going to be on the roster. My first inclination is to look at, okay, who's the center? What's going on there? Because we basically have a bunch of backup guards or third or fourth string guards on your at your interior offensive line with your starting center.
One question I have for you guys, though, I was kind of thinking about this after practice. Another year in the system for some of these guys, right? So we talked about Belton, rookie last year, thrown into the fire. Now he had an offseason under his belt, little continuity with LaFleur's system. A guy like him, also a guy like Monk. We talked about him maybe at guard, not so great, but I was just thinking, like, we have some bodies that have been with the program now for at least a year. I'm wondering how much of that can help, especially even for Belton's case, for example. He had a lot of playing time last year. So I think there are some concerns, but I'm also kind of looking at it from a different angle of they have some legitimate snaps under their belt, and could there be some continuity? Because we know bodies are going to, we know guys are going to go down, whether it's a tweaked ankle or whatever. I feel a little better about our depth this year. Like I think our floor is a little higher, but maybe our ceiling as an offensive line unit isn't as pronounced as maybe we want it to be. So I'm so torn right now on how I feel about the state of our offensive line right now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's tough because like, you and I have talked about like Matt. You and I have talked about like Dylan Wade and Josh Getsky. I think you and I would both agree that those two guys at
I'm
guard
high on Wade
are
for sure.
Yeah.
Call it a little SEC bias, bleeding through or whatever you want as a joke, but like I liked his guard tape coming out of Auburn. I'm high on him. I'll let you take over the rest of the answer in a sec, but I definitely echo the sentiment that Justin has with Anthony Belton specifically. Like a whole offseason at guard will help him. He's been with the program now. He understands the like offensive line scheme a little bit. And also here's something that we're kind of overlooking. He himself said he lost 15-ish pounds over the offseason.
That's right.
I think that will help his game. Be able to move a little quicker. Feet might be a little faster. I know like that kind of gets covered up a bit at guard, but it's still a very underrated aspect of playing the position.
I mean, yeah, to your point though, with Anthony Belton, I think that's a very underrated point. And with him losing that weight, like he was slower at tackle, so that's why they moved him to guard. And with him losing 15, I even heard it was like 20 pounds at some point. That may give him the opportunity to kick out to swing tackle here, I mean, I know he's a second round pick, right? I recall. I'd prefer him to be I would prefer, if you're going to spend money on a second round pick, I'd like him to be guard. If I had to pick anybody to replace Aaron Banks at left guard, I would prefer Anthony Belton, just because he's spent his entire college career at left tackle. But I mean, like when it comes to the floor and the ceiling of this offensive line, like Justin pointed out here, I don't think guys like Donovan Jennings, Jacob Monk are really in line for that potential backup role. I think that guys like either Dylan Wade or Josh Getsky are potentially your backup guards that raise the floor. And I mean, honestly, I know a guy we forgot about who was drafted last year, didn't really play at all. John Williams is also a potential backup guard. So there is, and to your point, there is a lot there where they can find the best guys at the interior. I'm just hoping that they realize that it's going to be Jagger Burton at center sooner rather than later. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I'd be fine with Sean Ryan going back to guard.
I would be too.
I mean, yeah.
But then you take Belton out of the lineup, and I'd rather Belton.
It's tough.
I think it's just so hard right now. Yeah, it's so hard right now. It's like it's a two-edged sword. It's a blessing and a curse to have guys that can be so versatile. But then it's hard to drill down to exactly how it's going to shape out and how confident you are in these guys, because we know Brian Gutekunst likes to draft and acquire guys that can play across the offensive line. So it's hard for them to master it, but it also helps us be more agile when injuries strike. So honestly, I have no confidence level on how that's going to play out, even though I do like your Jagger Burton take, Blaine. I think he's going to be the guy at some point this year that's going to overtake Sean Ryan. But then, like Matt, like you said, what happens to Anthony Belton? You kick Sean Ryan to guard? It creates you want a cohesive offensive line unit, and right now, based off how we're talking, it doesn't feel very cohesive at the moment. There's a lot of things in the air, but luckily it's only August 4th. We have a lot of time between now and week 1 at Minnesota to get to that point.
Secondly, Blaine brought up John Williams. I've been hearing good things about him throughout training camp. They've been running him as the second string center. I
did not know that. I had not paid attention.
It seems like he's been promising so far. Again, I haven't.
Well, I know that was like when he was drafted. When he was drafted, like that was like Brian Gutekunst said, we believe he can play center. So that's an interesting thing too, as well. I mean, it's just.
So does that give you 3 centers on the roster that you feel good about with Burton, Ryan, and Williams? So that's a good problem to have.
A lot of teams might not even have 2.
Yeah,
Chicago.
Right. And we saw last year, Lecitus Smith came into that playoff game, and we were all holding our breath every snap. So you never know when you need that third guy to step in.
And rightfully so, because that was not pretty. That was rough. I liked. You did bring up another point here that I want to kind of address. You mentioned that the offense was playing faster, and I think That's actually an incredible point to bring up. That was one of, I'd say, a lot of Packers fans' biggest complaints last year with the offense. And to a point, obviously, we're talking about the offensive line, how banged up it was. I understand it. But it seemed like at times they weren't letting Jordan Love rip it. And I know that Matt LaFleur made his comment about
letting Love
do you
cook.
want us to run the ball more? Yeah. And letting Love cook. Do you feel like, based on what you saw in practice, is the tempo indicative of like it? I guess is he walking it like he's talking it here? Is the tempo indicative of Matt LaFleur actually looking to let Jordan Love rip it?
Well, that's a loaded question, and I don't know if it's going to be hard to answer that based off a few reps at practice. But here's my take watching it. I think LaFleur is trying to get Jordan Love in a rhythm. I think Jordan Love's a very much a rhythmic player. When he's at his most confident, under center is when he drops back and lets it rip within a couple seconds. Jordan Love's not the type of player to improvise and roll out and do some of the stuff we saw with Aaron Rodgers over the years. I feel like Jordan Love's at his best where he's in rhythm and he's in a groove. And I think that's kind of what LaFleur is trying to do, and that's kind of the vibe I picked up along with some others I was talking with at practice, is Jordan Love looked at his best when he did his 3 steps and he let it rip. And I think once that confidence builds within him, I think that's where, we talk about these Jordan Love MVP candidate talks and things like that. I think that's where it can be really scary in a good way for our opponents. What I mean by that is putting fear in our opponents, not the other way around. But I think that's what I've noticed the most is he gets a couple of good completions and that confidence goes up, and then it's like he's in a groove. Kind of what we saw in that Pittsburgh game last year, where he had how many receptions in a row did he have? It was absurd. Like 21, wasn't it, or something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like he
was dropping dimes.
Yeah, and he was getting in a rhym. He gets confident. He's a very much of a confidence player, and I think that is what I was feeling. Maybe not so much the tempo having to be faster, but more so getting Jordan Love's confidence up to allow him to let it rip later in the game. And that's the vibe I got. That's something I'm keeping an eye on as training camp continues to develop. I'm not sure how much time we're going to see from Jordan Love during the preseason itself. But I just, the word confidence kept coming to me, is building up his confidence early in the game so he can allow him to let it rip. Because I feel like last year we kind of hamstrung him. We were trying so hard to get that run game going. And then when we needed Jordan Love to bail us out, I feel like Love didn't have the confidence in the game at that point. He really wasn't comfortable. And we were, asking him to pull rabbits out of his hat when maybe that's not really his style. So it's something to look at. That's kind of what I was feeling, though, from your question.
Well, in conjunction with that, I am a big J. Michael Sturdivant believer, and so I do want to talk about the weapons room here, if we will. We won't talk about J. Michael Sturdivant first, because he is a back-end wide receiver. I do want to talk about how we talked about the tight end room and how banged up it is. We've talked about the offensive line. I do want to take a look at the wide receiver room here, because obviously I think that we're expecting a lot of big things from a healthy Christian Watson, who seems to have put his past injury woes behind him, a revitalized and paid Jaden Reed, and then as well as the up-and-coming former first-round pick in Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
What has any of those, out of those three, has anybody stood out to you the most? Any connection?
Well, here's my take of the wide receiver room. One, Christian Watson is the clear leader of that room. You just sensed it. He's the clear alpha dog number one, which tremendous work by Russ Ball and the team to get him extended. Christian Watson looks different this year. Just the confidence is oozing. Yet, to your point, the injury woes seem to be behind him. I would say my other comment is Matthew Golden seems to really be stepping into that number 2 role. There's some confidence there. He's very fluid in his movement. He seems, last year during camp when I watched, he's the new guy. Rookie woes and trying to pick up the system and have that pressure being the first round pick, which is the first receiver we drafted in the first round since Javon Walker many moons ago. I think this year he's kind of taken some of those scars from last season of not getting some of those looks and finally scoring his first touchdown in the playoff game. And maybe less of the jet sweep work from Matt LaFleur and Matthew Golden. Please, let's get him running down the field with some routes. But you just felt that confidence come out of him. You can just see it when he's making his breaks, and he seems to be in great rapport with Jordan Love. And I would say to J. Michael Sturdivant, and I know I messaged you, Blaine, on the side when I was there on Monday. The word that describes him is fluid. The guy just is so fluid, and he's got length. And I can't even think of a comp on top of my head right now. I'm sure after the show's done, I'll think of like 5. But it's just like he's got fluidity to his game, and I'm curious to see it in action during the preseason.
Yeah, Blaine, what was your comp?
So unironic. So there's actually 2 comps for him. I have him as a higher upside MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
I don't need that.
But the big comp that I've seen to him, unironically, has been former Packers first-round draft pick Javon Walker. Like his physical presence.
Yes.
That's what a lot of people have kind of compared him to.
When he stepped
I love his
out,
tape.
when he stepped out of the stadium, because I was in the bike line with my son. When he stepped out, he didn't have his jersey on, and he just looked different. I asked the guy next to me, who is that? And he's like, oh, that's. And he saw the backpack, and it said number 87. And I was like, that's J. Michael Sturdivant. And I was like, oh my goodness, like he just looked the part.
Kind of looks like Romeo
who
a
knows?
little bit. Because he's wearing 87 too.
He does.
Yeah.
Physically he looks like Romeo,
Right.
but plays the game a little differently. Another thing I want to bring up about Matthew Golden is it seems like he's really grown as a pro, and you see that professional mindset take over. And I love to see that. The way he talks, the same thing can be said about Christian Watson. They're both very mature wide receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're starting to see that room is getting older.
Mhm.
I feel like the receiver room has been so young the last few years. We're like, these young weapons for Jordan Love. It's like, hey, Jaden Reed just got his contract extension. Christian Watson got extended. 2nd year of Matthew Golden, to your point. A guy that's been around the block a little bit, had a disappointing practice, but Sky Moore, another name, maybe from a output standpoint, more special teams, but having a veteran presence that's been around and done that, super important, for that room to play the way we expect him to. And with Matthew Golden, I'm with you 100%. He just had confidence. He oozed confidence. He seems like a guy that's comfortable in his own skin and ready to, make a name for himself this season.
Mm-hmm. What about the receiver who was drafted with Matthew Golden? And anything about Savion that jumped out to you?
Where the helmets are different this year. With they're no longer the Romeo Dobbs diaper helmets. They're the new. I don't know what the material is. That stood out to me. Jet sweeps. Matt LaFleur is still enamored with those jet sweeps with Savion.
I mean, he can do it. That's like half of his TCU film, so I understand it. But
Legitimately is.
But his contested catch numbers in college were incredible. In that game in New York last year, where he kind of saved our bacon in that game, I think there's more to his game than the horizontal run game. I think it should be an element. I just don't know. I would love to see him more work downfield. And again, that's a deep room right now. Especially we just talked about a few names that would probably be ahead of Savion, but I still think there's a place for him in the room, to have some of those gadget plays. I know people compare him to like a poor man's Cordero Patterson. I still see that there. I think there's still some development that needs to be done with Savion, but I don't think the book is finished on him either, though.
Yeah, I know he had kind of a rough day today too. Speaking of
this is a great opportunity to
young
segue
guns
to the corners.
Yeah, it is actually, because Cisse has been. I was very much against drafting Cisse. I've said that. I'm fine with being wrong.
It looks like you're going to be.
I'm fine with that. Like, I'm glad I'm wrong about the one thing that concerned me, and that was his technical prowess. I hammered this because I did not. I thought he relied way too much on his athleticism in college, and I was worried at how well that was going to translate when it came to the NFL level. And to his credit, he has taken that as a challenge and said, watch me learn this book and watch me get my technical prowess down, because the footwork has looked better. Just he very much looks like a guy who's, I'm going to rely on my intuition, my smarts, in conjunction with my athleticism versus my athleticism only. There's still going to be rookie mistakes, but if he plays like he's been practicing, there's a very good chance that you are looking at the Packers taking I would argue a top 10 pick in the second round.
How did he look to you in person, Justin?
Again, the word is fluid to me. Like, there's no wasted motion. He's very efficient in his drops and his breaks on receivers. His lateral quickness is elite. I think the one thing that I'm going to be interested in seeing how he can develop is his ball skills. I think I know there's going to be a heavy emphasis on trying to turn the ball over. So I'm curious to see some development there on ball hawking and his interception numbers, even though I know those numbers can be a bit fluky from year to year.
We lost.
I think the interesting thing with Cisse, though, outside of his traits, is the opportunity that's in front of him, right? We know Keyshawn Nixon. We can probably spend a whole episode just talking about him.
Oh boy, could we
but,
ever?
Yes, very up and down player, to put it nicely. But however, Carrington Valentine, hamstring injury this week. It's a golden opportunity for Cisse to step into the ones, which he has been this week at training camp, to make and to essentially force the hand of the coaching staff to say, hey, I'm available, I'm playing, and you got to force me off the field at this point. So I think the key for Cisse is to take advantage of these early opportunities that maybe weren't presented to him on paper, but have happened due to guys, falling out of practice or not being available. So I think that's a very underrated thing to keep looking at, is just look at those injury reports in the defensive back room, and Cisse keeps stepping into the ones and making a name for himself. There's gonna make a very compelling case to not take him off the field.
I mean, they had a difficult time starting Carrington Valentine last year. I know that, or even the past 2 seasons, just with like Jeff Hafley, even though he was Valentine struggled with tackling. Obviously, I don't think I'm saying anything new here, but he was a better coverage corner than I think Keyshawn Nixon was, and it's kind of funny because everybody talked about how like Keyshawn Nixon was potentially going to sit out to get paid more. And then he saw one day of Cisse playing and was like, oh, no, my hamstring's better, or whatever it was, magically. Because it's tough. It sounds like St. Just is playing very well.
You saw him at
from
the pick six.
what
That was Monday, right?
Yeah, with the twos on Tyrod Taylor.
Yes.
And obviously, like you mentioned there, like Cisse's fluid. He's going to have to start sooner rather than later, it seems like. I know that Kamal Haddon's coming back from injury here, but I really like Kamal Haddon as a potential number 2 option. And then you have Dominique Jackson, who I haven't heard much of anything about him.
Has not done team
I know he
apparently yet.
Okay, because I know he's dealing with a nagging injury
that
there.
was through OTAs
and
as well. So
what was it? I said, who's your guy, Matt? That you said you have to keep him on. You have to find a way to keep him on the roster. And I think Easton Butler said he's been really. No, was it Baldwin? Is it Baldwin or Bartholomew?
He dropped out of practice though with an injury that's been undisclosed.
That's a bummer. But he's been practicing. I've heard a lot of. He's surprised a lot of people. A lot of people there.
I want to get Justin's take on this. What do you think of all the corner blitzes that Gannon seems to have been throwing out so far?
I mean, it's a wrinkle that I think our defense desperately needs. I'm pro corner blitz, and I think it's something that it's interesting, and I think that I'm hoping that we have the right guys doing it. Do I want Keyshawn Nixon coming in a corner blitz? Probably not.
Unfortunately, he's good at it. It's like one of the things he's good at.
He is good at it. He is good at corner blitzing. I will give him that.
Yeah, I guess it's more so. I feel like his speed has been a couple ticks low. That's why, I think a Cisse, for example, with his quickness, I think would be awesome at a corner blitz. I think the key here is how can Gannon disguise it to to trick the quarterback into that it's happening. Because if the quarterback can detect that it's coming, then I think it's not effective. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Gannon can scheme up those corner blitzes, and I think it's something you need to have. Obviously, don't over abuse it. Maybe once or twice a game to just keep the offense honest and know that it's something that's in our back pocket. But I think the key here too is also having the right guys perform that blitz, not just anybody that's lined up. Because I think some guys are more equipped than others.
For sure.
I mean, speaking of blitzing too, just to kind of hit the linebacker room briefly here, because I think it is a little important to hit that. I know they've kind of done that with Cooper a little bit, dropped him into coverage. I obviously, I'm a huge Cooper fan. I have his jersey. Zaire Franklin, though, it sounds like he has just come in and absolutely taken the mantle of responsibility and leadership for this Gannon defense. It seems like the players just love him, and I'm not going to be shocked if he's wearing a captain's badge here.
Yeah, and I had that on my notes on Zaire Franklin. He's a guy that he might just be the unsung hero of this defense for this coming year. A guy that hasn't been talked about a lot. We did acquire him from Indianapolis this offseason. But I would say the one thing is that him and Andrew Cooper have an incredible relationship together. Very tight-knit. Even before he got into Green Bay, right? Zaire Franklin gave Andrew Cooper gave him a call and said, we're going to be the best linebacker duo in this league. And I just love that. I love that mentality. I love that energy. And just seeing it at practice, you can just tell that him and Coop have a good bond together. And I think, if anything, it's going to help with communication, which I know in the secondary last year we struggled with communication, but I think as a whole, the defense struggled with communication at times. And I think that's going to be key, is if Zaire Franklin can just bridge the communication gaps that we have, be that veteran in the room that's been there and done that, and also help shepherd Edrin Cooper along. I mean, Cooper is still, when we're going to his 3rd year, he's still a pretty young player. Just from a linebacker perspective, I think it's important to have a veteran in the room that can kind of help him along, as we know that Cooper is going to be a superstar in this league, if not already. So I'm excited to see those two guys work in tandem, and I think they complement each other really well too, with Cooper's speed and Zaire's more stout, run stuffing, type of style. I think it's going to be a good complement to each other.
And I don't know about you, Matt. I kind of feel like Zaire Franklin is smarter than Quay Walker.
Yeah, I did like Quay a lot. I will say that. Sad to see him go play in Vegas, but good for him on getting the payday. Zaire excelled in coverage where Quay did not, and that's where I think the biggest improvement can be found. But Quay was a little bigger and faster, if that makes sense.
A lot more athleticism there. I just think that, though, like having Zaire Franklin and his like him wearing the green dot, I think that's going to pay a lot more dividends.
Oh, for sure.
Zaire's than Quay
100% can see the game at a higher level, and seems to have a bit more of that leadership gene in him, which is key for a Mike linebacker.
Yes. Look, man, I just pray that they stick, 'cause I do not want to see Isaiah McDuffie on that field any more than I have to, which is not at all.
A couple of things I want to hit here. Evan Williams, Xavier McKinney, they still look like their old selves, out there, Justin?
Absolutely. The safety room is towards the bottom of my level of concern. And you even got to loop in Blaine's boy, Javon Bullard, into that too, right? Him and the two safeties are just rock solid. Xavier McKinney had a very nice interception on Jordan Love at practice on Monday. Barring health being a concern, I think that room is rock solid. Curious to see what Gannon does with them, if they do any sort of disguises with those guys, or do we just play too deep and kind of just play it safe with them? I'm curious to see how Gannon uses the talents of a McKinney and Evan Williams. I think McKinney is such a smart player. We talk about IQ as a player. I think McKinney he reads the game so well, and I think if Gannon can have him do some lurking and ball hawking, I think he has that skill. His turnover numbers were a little lower this year compared to last year compared to his first year when he joined us. I think there's some area for McKinney to kind of be a roamer in the defense. So to your point, Matt, I think that those guys are fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And I got to ask about one of my favorite players on the defense. How has Warren Brinson done this training camp so far?
To be frank with you, man, he did not much out of him on Monday when I was there. I think that's a name we should continue to keep an eye on. I think the bigger name that stood out, not to segue from your name, but is Baron Sorrell.
Mm-hmm.
His name has really stuck out. He actually had a pick 6 in practice. Was that today?
That was
if I'm
today.
Not mistaken. Yeah. But Baron Sorrell, he was the talk of a lot of people around training camp on Monday. He's had a tremendous camp. I think the guy you brought up, Matt, I think, again, we need to keep an eye on him a little bit. But just to give you a little nugget, I think Baron Sorrell's a guy to watch to potentially break out this coming season.
Micah Parsons' brother, Terrence Parsons, was like, he's that guy. And I'm really looking forward to Baron Sorrell. I mean, just because the whole story of him getting drafted last year and how he ended up just being there and getting to walk down, I think that's cool. And on top of that too, like watching his tape again, it was one of those things where he plays faster than like his RAS gave too. So I really like Baron Sorrell. I think that it makes you wonder, because I know that there's been a lot of it sounds like the Josh Sweat trade rumors have kind of picked up again, and from what I've gathered, he really only wants to play for Jonathan Gannon, and that's it. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see. I know that the Packers do love to rotate their defensive ends, but you have some guys in there, and Lucas Van Ness, and obviously Baron Sorrell making waves. I think there's one more guy that there's two more guys that we do need to talk about, and we'll do the good before we do the potentially concerning. And a guy who's making waves is on offense. I mean, Marshawn Lloyd staying healthy.
It took 40 minutes to get to Marshawn Lloyd.
Is this a dream?
By the way,
I know, right?
He is quick, guys. He's got. He's got some lateral quickness to him, and just some, like once he hits the line of scrimmage, it's like the Energizer Bunny takes off. He just glides. Again, it's so hard to get a read on him because we really haven't seen him in some actual contact in a game, just to kind of see what that explosion looks like, outside of a practice setting. But I can tell you, just the confidence seems to be there with him. We're praying that the health issues of the past are finally behind him, kind of like the Christian Watson story. Because I think they sent Lloyd out to some specialists. I don't know where. I forgot where they sent him, but
that was Arizona. I don't know why it comes to mind.
It's like California, Arizona, or somewhere out west.
Yeah.
I think, hopefully they figured out his body chemistry and how to keep him on the field, because, again, we know with the running back room, it's going to be interesting with the whole Josh Jacobs thing looming, with the whole issue that he ran into this summer. And Lloyd's the next guy up in that room. So it's going to be critical that he's healthy. He's going to have ample opportunity, which is pretty rare in this league. If you think about the amount of injury mishaps and how many teams would just kind of throw you off to the side and say, yeah, we don't want you anymore. The Packers have been loyal to him, and he may have a really golden opportunity in front of him this season. So looked great at practice on Monday. We just keep being nervous after each practice with those injury reports that his name continues to remain off. And we see him hopefully next Thursday in Pittsburgh, with some game action that we can talk about.
I fully sympathize with Marshawn Lloyd dealing with hamstring injuries, because currently dealing with one. It sucks, but
yeah, I hope I definitely hope he's turned the corner here, because I do think our offense needs that kind of alternative running back there to kind of add some juice. I love Josh Jacobs, his play style, I should clarify.
Good
but
save.
I know, right? Marshawn Lloyd just kind of provides a different type of running back, a different type of explosive running back that this offense definitely has been missing in the years past, since Aaron Jones left, unfortunately, or since we let Aaron Jones go. How do you feel about the kicker situation? Because I know how I feel right now with it. I know that our long snapper is unfortunately on IR or whatever, and I'm more keen on seeing how he performs in an actual game setting than I am necessarily with like a tier practice. But I know that he deleted social media, which I don't blame him at all whatsoever.
It depends what angle. It just depends what angle you want to come into, right? We as Packer fans dearly miss Mason Crosby. I think we all could agree to that. I think if you asked me on the day, it depends on how I feel about the kicking situation. I know, Blaine, you and I have talked about this a little bit on the side. I'm very much on your train of thought, I think, on let's see it in games first, just because I think the long snapper to holder exchange is more important than we give it credit for. And again, given with Orzak being injured and we brought in the new long snapper from Cincinnati, there could be some of that going on. I just think the biggest thing that I'm looking for is confidence. Is he in his head? Because you can kind of tell when the kickers on the field if they're in their head or not. You just hope with the early struggles for Trey Smack that he's not getting in his head and questioning what got him to this league. He was an elite kicker in college. He was somebody we all pretty much celebrated when we drafted him. So, and I'm curious to see our new special teams coordinator, how he handles this as well. I feel like Bisaccia was a little more hands-off with our kickers and felt like they should just handle their own business because that's what got them there. I'm wondering, giving a young guy in the room, what kind of coaching and guidance that he's providing to Smack. So I would say the jury's still out. I don't want to go say everything's fine, but I also don't want to say everything's horrible. So I'll cop out and say the jury's still out.
Yeah, you mentioned him in college. Think of the things that have changed from him from college to the NFL. Ball's different, hashes are different. And
the weather's going to be very different.
Weather's very different from Florida to Green Bay. So you got to give him a little bit of grace. I'm hoping it picks up.
That's fair.
But I feel like a lot of people are looking at Mason Crosby specifically through rose-colored glasses because the last year, maybe 2 years of Mason Crosby wasn't very great.
He definitely lost his kicking power towards the end for sure. We were very limited.
Remember that Cincinnati game?
I listened to that game on the radio. Yeah. That was one of the most infuriating games to listen to on the radio.
Everybody missed that game.
Yeah.
That was with McPherson too, and he was
McPherson missed a lot of that game too. Thankfully,
yeah,
that was 2021, I think.
So yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it's gonna be one of those things where I think get him in the preseason game, so he kicks there. I know a lot of people are seeing these kickers who are kicking it from like 60 and like, I want my kicker to do that. Look, I know there are 2 kickers that are doing that on a consistent basis, but like there are still only 2 kickers that are doing it on a consistent basis here.
And Lambeau Field is very difficult to kick in, especially once you get into November and December months. You know, the kickers that are bombing them, the guy in Dallas, the name escapes me.
Brandon Aubrey.
You know, he's kicking. Yeah, Brandon Aubrey's kicking in a dome half the season, and that helps. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now the key is, you know, it's a tightrope to walk. You want the kid to be confident, but you also can't be complacent. Where if you're seeing him struggle, you do what the question I think is going to be, at what point, if he continues to struggle, do you bring in legitimate competition? And I think that's the thing to keep an eye on. If you start seeing a name come in to try out alongside him, that's maybe where you raise a yellow flag saying, something's going on. But I think you have to give him at least next game in Pittsburgh to see kind of what we're working with. If he struggles mightily, I would expect Goody's going to be on the phone to get some kickers to try out.
Yeah, and as long as, like, my thing is if he can hit his extra points and he kicks way better than McManus did from inside the 45, I'm not going to have any problems. Like that.
Same.
That's probably what I'm looking for right now. Is if he can kick way better than McManus from inside the 45 and nail all his extra points, I will not care necessarily if he misses from beyond 50 much.
And a cautionary tale. Remember last training camp, McManus was stellar. He was hitting all of his kicks.
He made everything, right? And didn't have any competition or anything.
Right. So, you know, I think the patience game is key. Just given that this team is, you know, how hungry we are to contend and to take that step to break through that playoff ceiling that we've been hitting our heads on for a while. It's going to be a sensitive area, but, you know, I think we need the patience needs to be key here. So it's something I'm going to keep an eye on. I'm sure you guys will as well.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Justin, again, for kind of taking some notes here. We really do appreciate it. It was awesome to have you on. We'll definitely have to have you on it again in the future, especially if you attend. Because I think you got the Vikings game?
Yeah, so I guess a couple updates. Yeah, I'll be at family night this Friday night. In Green Bay. Looking forward to the festivities with that. And actually, I'll have a very good view of the entire practice. I'll be sitting up around the 30-yard line in a pretty good view of the entire practice. So I'm
exciting.
Going to have maybe a little better note taking for some of the things, just because for those that are interested in ever coming to Packers training camp, it is like a game. When I mean that there's crowds and there's lots of people, it is not a high school football practice vibe. So if you do come prepared, arrive early. So I'm hoping to have a more holistic view of the practice on Friday night. And then to your point, Blaine, yes, there is a ticket lottery for the residents that live in Brown County, which is the county Green Bay is in Wisconsin. And I got my name picked, and I will be attending the November 15th Minnesota Vikings game. And I'd probably be at some other games too that come available given my proximity to Lambeau. So I appreciate the invite to the show, guys, and
you're going to
love
become
listening
a regular.
to your show. And
don't worry.
I don't twist my arm. I'm all about it, and happy to give you guys some information and stuff that I see live here in Green Bay. So it's been a treat being on here, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you again, and be sure to like, subscribe, share. Thank you again, guys, for tuning in to another episode of Beyond the Frozen Tundra. Until next time.
To Packers fans coast to coast, thanks for going beyond the frozen tundra. We appreciate you tuning in. And as always, go Pack Go!